It's like, oh.
This is it, 35, 1945.
It's water. If I drank this much coffee, I'd be bouncing. Yeah.
Well, is tomorrow going to is that next week?
Garden club.
Garden club, because I have to do social things on garden club days.
Do they make you wait?
No,
No.
I
To
have
set
to
up
stay away
paintings and stuff.
I have to stay out of fellowship hall.
Oh, no, are they messy?
I don't agree with that.
Well, they play in the dirt, you know. They probably have messy shoes.
This Easter.
How'd you like those messages from Benji? Don't touch the.
Exactly saying.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
How many years will it take him to do it?
It is a mystery.
Yeah, because we're offering to do it.
He looked the gift horse in the mouth. He didn't like what he saw, okay.
I told Barb, well, no, it's not gonna get painted purple.
Well, should we start? Let's open with prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for your presence with us this morning, for your constant love, and you guide us in our conversations. Help us to hear you speaking through each other. In your name we pray. Amen. Somebody want to read Matthew 28, 1 through 10, and the assorted verses there?
Sure. After the Sabbath, as the first day of the week was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to see the tomb. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descending came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. But the angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has been raised, as he said. Come, see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has been raised from the dead, and indeed he is going ahead of you to Galilee." Suddenly Jesus met them and said, "Greetings." And they came to him, took hold of his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers and sisters to go to Galilee. There they will see me."
And then in that, the first couple sentences, since I dropped some stuff on my glasses, which I normally do, and it smeared all over them. I can't see anything, so.
Would you like me to go do something with them?
Yeah, you wanna clean them? Especially the right one.
In emergencies, you just lick it.
No. Somebody wanna read the first couple of sentences up to the entirely new one? So on page
Oh, it is a powerful.
92.
It is a powerful thing to feel moved, isn't it? To have something stirred deep within us, drawing us out, pulling us in, lifting us from where we had been and carrying us to someplace entirely new.
What do you think of that sentence? The sentences. Are you ever moved like that?
Yes, I mean, I don't know that, it's interesting carrying us someplace entirely new. It might be someplace entirely new, like in your thinking or whatever, but yes, oh my gosh. I, I kind of feel everything, and so I moved like that quite often.
Anyone else? Lifting us up where we have been, carrying us to something entirely new.
That wouldn't necessarily be like an emotional high of some sort, apparently, then.
Some kind of emotional high.
I'd say it probably isn't some sort of emotional high then. Right? No,
It is or isn't.
isn't. I mean, I think when I'm moved, last Sunday would probably be an example of that. I don't know why, Easter kind of hit me a little different this year. And I guess I would say I was moved. I don't know where it moved me to. It was more, I mean, it was more kind of in the moment kind of thing, I guess is the way I would
Mhm.
experience that. Because that seems like something that would take you, open up a whole new vista. Or, either spiritually, emotionally, whatever, it would be a different kind of experience. I'm not sure I've had many of those.
You're not sure if you've had many of those?
Yeah.
That I have.
I feel like I had this experience primarily like on the 2 mission trips in Guatemala. I mean, just this incredible, I don't know, I mean, and thinking and feeling all different things. It was interesting.
Hmm. Yeah. In my last congregation, I was kind of head of the mission organizations that,
Mhm.
and we sent people kind of all over the world to many different countries in the world. But we also sent Grace Lutheran, where I served, we had a group of people who met every week who were recovering alcoholics. And we sent that group to Guatemala. And they led a retreat down there. And I was part of that retreat. And one other guy who was also not an alcoholic. The two of us were part of that group. And it was one of those kind of experiences that was just absolutely amazing.
I think there must be something about us as humans that yearns for that. I've been reading a lot of and watching a lot of documentaries on the origins of different kind of sects of religion, and it just seems like something happens and someone is all of a sudden moved to establish something different or something new. And I think sometimes obviously these things can be very positive, but I think also us as people just kind of yearn for that connection, and sometimes it's not necessarily a positive thing. It can happen within people with different political persuasions. It doesn't have to be religious. Like I think there's something about us as people that want something outside of ourselves to draw us to a greater purpose. And so I think the challenge, and maybe this is just my internal criticism that I still have stuck in my head from my evangelical world days, but like is figuring out like what is God and what is not, right? And so what is God drawing you to something, and what is your mind just like latching on to something because you want to feel something, but then you also have to second guess the feeling, and it's this whole complex mess of I don't know. But I don't know. I just feel like there's a piece of it that it's how we're built a little bit too.
Always longing for something different in a sense.
Yeah, like they just came out with this new movie that's a lot of speculation, but also based on kind of what literature there is based on the Shakers of the
Mhm.
origin, the woman who
And,
established the
yeah,
Shakers.
Mother Ann.
And just like, just there was a lot of like emotional drawing to
Mhm.
how things started for the people in that subset, and just, I don't know,
Mhm.
like I don't know, we want to feel like there's something about our species that wants that.
Mhm. Thinking about last Sunday, Easter. Has Easter ever moved you? Is there anything about Easter that you have, that has moved you in some way or another?
I think for me, Easter just brings incredible joy. The service that moves me every single time is the Tenebrae service on Good Friday.
Mhm. Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
The part that moves me is after Jesus had told Peter that he was gonna deny him, and then after Peter did deny him, and then it says, Jesus turned and looked at Peter.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That gets me every time. You know, and it's just like, I can't imagine, it's like if I, when I sin, that Jesus is looking at me going, yeah, you know better. Ah, I do, and it gets me every single time that, and then the cock crows, and then Jesus looked at Peter, and I thought, oh, what? I can just imagine Peter going, there it is, it's like,
Well, and then he
Mhm.
goes away and weeps bitterly, right? That's what, yeah, yeah.
and then today in the sermon, where we all know about doubting Thomas, he doubted after, what makes it any different than the disciples doubting Mary?
Nothing.
Mary said, I
Zero.
saw him risen. Yeah. And so then now the disciples are saying to Thomas, I saw him risen. Yeah. He's reacting exactly like the other guys did. The only thing we hear, he's like, I gotta touch him. They didn't say I had to touch him, but it's just like, why are we giving him such a bad rap when the disciples did exactly the same thing?
Mhm.
It's just like, huh. I guess I never thought of that before, but they were treating Mary just as Thomas was treating the disciples. So therefore it tells me a lot of us are like that. Do I really believe it? I gotta see it for myself. So it's not just Thomas, it's all the disciples,
Yeah, and he showed in one of the gospels, and I can't remember which one.
So it keeps focusing on me, and I'm not saying anything. So I'm like making all these faces at it. It wasn't me reacting to anything Pam thinks great. I'm just like, why does it keep walking on to me? Sorry.
It's waiting for your contribution.
I don't say, I'm just listening.
The algorithm is,
It's like, don't you want to talk? They're like, no, I don't.
you're having a move.
It's having a movement towards me. I'm like, leave me alone. I want to be still.
It's creepy.
It is, see, like it's still on.
Well, you're talking now.
Yeah.
You're safe now.
So on page 93, it says, because something in us knows that we are not meant to keep still. We are not meant to stay the same. No, we are made to be moved. It's an interesting statement.
What does that mean?
We are meant to be moved. To be affected by something or another. To seek that which stirs us and allows ourselves to never again be the same. So thinking about your faith journey even, has it changed through time? Yeah,
Sure.
I was very decision oriented as a youth. Um. I just was brought up that way, kind of. Well, no, I wasn't brought up that way. Because I knew that I was always loved, so I don't know why. But I was very decision oriented. You had to make a decision for Christ. But that isn't where I'm at now, by any means. Uh, So what's changed for you in your faith journey?
She kind of links movement spiritually to sort of physical movement here, sort of throughout the book, does she? And that
Yeah.
kind of built
Mhm.
notion of the journey. Yeah. There have been times in my life, I kind of look back at people I've known and admired who kind of stayed in the same place. They sort of build a life, and there's seems like roots and depth and all that too. But I'd have to say that at least for me and hopefully Ruth, our constant movement has been literally geographic movement into different spaces and with different contexts and people. Has probably been the most, I don't know, enriching or
Mhm.
propelling, or anyway, done the most to kind of propel us along the path of faith. And it's hard almost now to think back where we would be without that. I mean, that's been a real impetus to have been in so many different churches throughout my life. So I'm, despite the fact that I don't have any roots, and the next move will be as easy as the last one. Some people to move, other people find it hard to move. I just see it as an opportunity.
Mhm.
You see moving as an opportunity.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and a lot of, many, many levels. Just, you have your antennas up, you're just taking it, you're kind of waking up again, it seems like. And
Mhm.
I go to sleep really fast, I think it's probably my problem.
And it forces you to get out of a rut.
It does, yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Because you have this certain group of friends, or like
Mhm.
when I was working, a lot of it related to what my work buddies and everything. And to move away, you have to put yourself out there a lot.
Mhm.
And you see new things and new ideas. And I think it's really good. I always feel bad when someone grows up, and then never really leaves home. I think it's good. People go home and then come back, which is different, but never having had that experience
Mhm.
of being out in a different situation
Mhm.
and having to fend for yourself, so to speak.
So how many of you have been on different mission trips?
And I will say that's something that was, the first one was really hard for me to think about going on, because I was never somebody that like mission was like one of my callings. Like I never felt like, oh, I would do things and I would help out and whatever, but it was never like something I was drawn to. Our daughter, on the other hand, is a completely different person. And even at age 7, she was arranging bake sales to help with mission things. She arranged a drive for baby goods to help this shelter. She said, from a very young age. And she's the one who really wanted to go on this first Guatemala trip that we went on. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. How are we going to pay for this? How are we going to do this? I was trying to think all this stuff. And she was just like, let's just go, And it was wonderful. And it really changed my perspective, and I was so excited to go back again and everything, but I really will always be thankful to her for that, for kind of making me go. And she still does so much mission stuff down with their church in Arizona, so it's a good thing. It did nudge me along to a new place
Mhm.
in many ways.
I've been to Mexico, Haiti, Jamaica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Uganda, Tanzania, all of those countries. And yeah, it's just amazing to be able to go, but as kind of the lead pastor at the church, not the lead, I was never the lead pastor there. It was a large church and, but as the one who organized those trips,
Mhm.
I constantly sought to have them go as learners,
Mhm.
not as doers. And that was a hard thing to get through to people. I was told that one person stayed, I think in Elsa, I don't know where it was. They stayed in a motel the whole time. And I just thought, how crazy is that? Because we stayed at home usually.
Mhm.
So
I don't mean to be disrespectful about going on mission trips outside of the country, but why, when we think of mission trips, why is it always somewhere else?
yeah,
When there's so much mission work to do in our neighborhood.
Yeah, there's
never quite understood that.
yeah.
and that's a good valid point because, you know, that's one thing that I think we need to keep focused on that too, because we have so much need. And, you know, that's another thing that I've done with Marina and Jackson and their small group is like one time when I was down there, we went and passed out lunches to homeless people and just
Yeah.
drove around and found people and we were in teams and stuff and it was great. I mean, it was, yeah,
But nobody would,
yeah.
when the question is asked, have you been on mission trip? You never would have thought of that, I bet.
Well,
Because you and me, I'm not
Yeah.
picking on you, Becca.
Yeah.
We don't think of what we do at home as
Mhm.
mission.
Yeah.
It's almost like mission is a word that means outside the United States.
our church, this church here has done several mission trips in the United States. One was to Nia Bay, where we went there for a week. And the Nia Bay church was really small and we put on a vacation Bible school. And we did yard work around their church because they had such a small church. And we did lots of weeding and painting and we stayed in their church. And so that we did that with the youth
Yeah.
and we called it a mission trip and it was a mission trip. And then, of course, we went to Hawaii when Pastor Matt, not Pastor Matt, Matty.
Yeah.
You know, Ted, he was real good friends with the Hongos. And so we went to Hawaii and we formed a choir and we sang at different churches, but also I found it was interesting that a lot of the churches in Hawaii, we also did weeding and painting and stuff there because they said, we get visitors coming to Hawaii, like to Oahu or something, and they'll visit our church and then they go away.
Yeah.
Because they're on vacation. And so they said, we don't have a lot of core people that stay here to maintain the church and stuff like that. So, they said, if you look at our numbers, it looks pretty good because they're all people that are there for 1 or 2 weeks during vacation and they're Christians and they want to go to church. And so they go to church, but they don't maintain their church. So we did a mission trip in Hawaii where we did, you know, and stuff like that. And my kids went and I've got, you know, for when they had to do their senior notebook, you know, project services, they did, you know, they talked about the mission trip in Nia Bay and the mission trip in Hawaii. And so, yeah, you can do mission trips, not necessarily,
Yeah.
and we call them mission trips,
Mhm.
but yes, we can do mission like working for Taffy and stuff like that, but it's not a trip. So he's saying a trip. So a trip means, to my mind, you go away somewhere. But you
Yeah.
can go away to Nia Bay and
Yeah.
that's still a mission trip.
We went to Central Washington from Spokane and did a mission trip at a camp there, and we did call that a mission trip. I think what I see as a difference between a mission trip and doing mission work.
Okay,
And
that's good.
yeah.
And I would expand upon that, because mission doesn't have to just be meeting the physical needs of people.
No,
Yeah.
Where I think just because of where my mind and soul have been recently, is looking at all the people who are trying to reach out for people who have really had struggles within their church context, and trying to feed them
Mhm.
spiritually and find a place for them to land. And that to me is a mission, because there is a huge group of people in this country that have just shut the door on all of it, because it was such a traumatic experience, quite frankly. And that's a huge group of people that need, not to be reached to convert, but like just a place to like actually have conversations and find meaning in whatever that looks like for that person.
It just brings up a lot for me, because for years I felt homeless, church homeless, didn't have any place to land. I didn't, so I totally understand that sense you're getting of a place for people to land and be in community.
Like, for example, I have a friend who's Reformed Latter-day Saints. And when you were in the evangelical tradition, you are pounded on your head that Mormons are a cult, right? And I'm just coming to a very different place about a lot of things with all this stuff. But I feel very comfortable. We've had conversations about, she's like, our church is just so small because it's kind of a remnant of people. And she's like, could I come with you guys? And I said, absolutely. Because I feel like we all really kind of believe the same things. It just looks a little different and the tradition's a little different. But I would not feel like this church would be an unsafe place for her to be. You know what I mean? And so I just think that's a really important mission, in addition to, feeding people and housing people and doing all of those things is also very important. But I think there's a place of healing that church can be. And it has honestly a lot of work to do, because of the amount of not healing it has done. I feel like it has some I don't know, responsibility in that.
as a pastor for 30-some years, I think I always felt insecure. Not fitting in with normal pastors. Not fitting in with, especially being a Lutheran pastor, ELCA Lutheran pastor, not fitting in with others in that group. And I don't think I ever felt that. So I do understand part of that anyway.
Why do you think you didn't fit in? You didn't feel like you fit in.
I think part of it was, I probably am a little more conservative than most ELCA pastors. Now I'm not necessarily, but at that point in time, I think I was conservative. And it just didn't fit. Now, the congregation at Emmanuel Lutheran in Whatcom County, or whatever the county is, right on the border. That became a home place for me. That became a congregation that I really did appreciate and love. Anyway, I won't go there. Let's go to page 94.
Just to, that's a kind of interesting tension though, isn't it? The desire to be moved and the desire to find a place. It's,
Yeah,
those two things kind of are always grinding. Yes. So I don't know, it's just sort of part of what life throws at us.
I think for me, one of the things that has kind of brought it together and made me a little less myopic about things is just the concept of being connected to saints across time and place. And that we serve a place wherever we are and wherever we go in this time. And And someone else will pick up the thread at some point, just like we've picked up the thread from someone else, but that we're all connected and we all have a place to be and serve. And I don't know, to me, it's just super cool. And it, like I said, kind of takes the focus off of my little piece as much because I just do what I can and that's part of the
big picture.
big picture.
On page 94, but Mark's account is far more stark. Mark simply says, so they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them. And he asked the question, why terror, wonder, fear? What do you think was happening in terror and amazement that seized them?
Had any of them ever seen someone raised from the dead? I mean, like, I think I would be a little freaked out too. I mean, either way, if you see him as a gardener, you see these angels or something, and like, hey, he's not here, he rose. I would be scared. I mean,
I think I
yeah,
would too.
yeah.
Makes sense. On page 95, in that big long paragraph, he goes on to say that when someone is judgmental, they think they have everything figured out. They have no need to learn because they would prefer to stay put in the world they know. But when one is curious, there is movement. When one is curious, one is no longer afraid to seek experiences, to ask questions, to open oneself up to transformation. When one is curious, being moved is what it's all about. How do you understand judgmental and curiosity? Are you curious? Or judgmental?
I think we can be both. I love learning new things. I mean, I'm very curious to, if somebody says something and it piques my interest, I'm like, ooh, I got to find out more about that and stuff. But I'm sure, I know I have times where I'm judgmental as well.
So what does judgmental mean to you then?
See, that's the thing. I think there is an element of they think they have everything figured out because judgment is you are saying you're not as good or this is not what I would choose, so therefore it's wrong, or you're making some kind of a judgment. So there is something like, oh, I've got it all figured out. Whether or not you think that really clearly, I think there is an element to that, of that.
And I can be judgmental of the judgmental.
Yeah.
That would be where I would go. It's like, I was in that box of judgmental. And I'm not gonna say I'm never judgmental, but I can be highly critical of someone who's not open.
I forget who it was we read recently, said the opposite of doubt is certitude.
Mhm.
The idea that we know.
Yeah.
But curiosity kind of goes with doubt.
It's a more uncomfortable place to live.
Mhm.
It's
It
more
is,
uncomfortable.
it is, and I think that the certitude of some of the missionaries that we used to think of as people going out trying to convert somebody, that really gave missionaries a bad rap, unfortunately. And some of them, well, you can't put everybody in one box.
I think while judgmental behavior can be outwardly harmful and often is, it's actually comes from a place of insecurity because it's a person having established some sort of schema that works for them And in order to keep that, so they have some certainty or assuredness in that place, they have to outwardly project that everything else is not acceptable, because otherwise their own house falls apart. And that's where I think I lived in the judgmental, and genetically Midwestern wise, I am predisposed to be that way anyways. I have to shut that stick off a lot of times, which is really hard. And then going in the, like, I'm mad at the people who were judgmental. And now I'm coming into I'm just kind of sad about it. I'm sad for the people who have the negative effects of it, but I'm also sad because the people feel the need to be hateful to other people just to keep their own house in order. And I feel like there's a different way. It's a hard way.
It's a hard way. So I would say that's how I've described kind of my journey, is that I lived in that house, only I called it a box. And I remember when I started kind of lifting the lid and then the walls came down. That's kind of how I feel. I would describe, because I grew up in that certainty, and it was safe. It wasn't much fun. But yeah, I would say I am kind of the black sheep of the family, because I tend to question pretty much everything.
It's hard, like I think of non-politically here, going, the people who believe that the earth is flat. Okay, I totally don't believe that. I believe that the people can go around the earth, the astronauts, and it's round, and I'm judgmental of the people that believe the earth is flat, because I'm not gonna change my opinion. I think it's round.
Yeah.
And am I curious? Maybe I'm curious, like, why the heck do they believe that? Maybe I'm curious by that, but I'm sticking to my judgmentalness of, yep, I'm judging them because I think they're wrong. You know, so I don't think I'm gonna change on that opinion. And it's so, and it's, I suppose I should be a little more curious to, not be so harsh to them, like, well, why do you believe that? Maybe I should, try to understand why they have come to that false idea. So, I mean, I think we're all judgmental in some ways, and it's like, it's like, yeah. And sometimes it's like, well, you shouldn't be judgmental, you should be more curious. Okay.
So when Jesus went into the temple, you should have talked to those people who are selling stuff there.
Yeah.
Said, tell me, what are you doing here? Instead of just upending everything.
No, it's like, so I don't know,
So there's a time and place.
I think there is a time and place, you can. And we need to have judgment, just going super basic, like you have to be able to judge, is it okay to cross the street right now? Or should I be curious and play in the middle of the road? I probably not. Judgment can be helpful. Depends.
So it's not either or, really,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It's just like the reaction to the ladies in the tomb. It wasn't either fear or great joy. It was fear and great joy. It was terror and amazement, We are capable of these kind of juxtaposed thoughts, feelings, whatever you want to call it. It's part of how we're made.
And I would say the other thing is, feelings were not important, and I can say now, I rely, I would say, on my gut. Does something feel, which is nobody else that I grew up with would ever say, oh, it's in the Bible, it's whatever, it's black and white, yes and no. It's not, is it giving me peace inside? Can I live with thinking this way? Does it bring me a sense of peace or hope, or does it feel right? Which is like not. I don't know.
And is the question, is it outwardly harmful, right?
Yeah,
And that's maybe where, like, Jesus threw the tables in the temple, because there was, people taking advantage of people within the context of worship. So, if the belief system that a person has lets them go out and murder a bunch of people, then maybe we need to have a serious conversation about that and not just say, well, I'm glad that works for you. But when the world, when the world is flat, like,
Yeah.
okay, fine, if you don't believe the world is round, like, does that really affect anyone around you? Probably not, and so is it, worth trying to have a deep conversation with that person? I mean, just like if your favorite color is blue and mine is red, then like, okay, great, let's move on. But it's figuring out, and there's no like easy line with that, because there's a lot of gray about.
When would I choose violence? When would I choose violence? I might in certain, because I have a big issue with domestic violence. And what would I do? Because I've been faced with, what would I do if in the way of combating that physically? So that is kind of going, okay, yeah, you can tolerate things, but when you see harm, how do you counteract it? Can't say I'm totally non-violent.
Oh, I don't think any of us can. There would be situations we would all do something.
Continuing on page 96, that last paragraph. Yet Pope Francis took the instruction a step further. He said, quote, "In the life of every Christian after baptism, there is also another Galilee, a more existential Galilee, the experience of a personal encounter with Jesus Christ, who called me to follow him and share his mission." Then he says, in this sense, returning to Galilee means, excuse me, means treasuring in my heart the living memory of that call, that Jesus passed my way, gazed at me with mercy, and asked me to follow him. Basically, he's saying, where is your Galilee? Where has there been a time in your life when you were face to face with Jesus, in a sense? And for me, I think I've always known that God loves me. I don't ever remember a time when that wasn't true. And yet, there have been definitely some steps along the way that I have matured and grown and faced Jesus in some different ways.
Maybe it's when did you figure out you loved God? And, would that be the encounter? I don't know.
When I figured out that I loved God, I just knew always that God loved me.
You always, oh, okay. So that didn't require a response. Now, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Doesn't love usually require a response?
I don't know. I just always knew that he loved me. I don't know if there was a response. Yes, love does require a response. I don't know.
Well, I guess you can ignore, but that's the response, I suppose.
No, and I didn't ignore. I always wanted to continue to grow. Yeah, so that's part of that issue. There was always a growth process involved. That's why I didn't ever have a youth group that I was associated with, because it was always a fun and game group. And I was more serious. So I became close to pastors along the way. And I'm not sure if they understood that, what I was doing. But that's where it was. But where have you grown? Where is, in a sense, where's your Galilee?
I took that as maybe part of the Christian journey is kind of a cyclical movement where you revisit some of these points, move on, develop some new ones, revisit, move on. I don't know, it's not, because Galilee, in that sense, was where Jesus first made contact with people. And now, and I never really thought about that until reading this, and he is asking them to meet him back where they first started.
Yeah,
And, you know, I think about that in my own life, and I find myself kind of reflecting back over people and times that were, I guess, for lack of a better word, a blessing or insight or, you know, something like that. And it does sort of strengthen you at those times when maybe you feel distant or vague or something in your faith. I don't know. So I guess those are touchstones or something that are good to revisit periodically. And in that sense, the journey isn't just a straight line, you know, it's just kind of touching back, going forward, touching back, going forward. I know that's the point I kind of got out of his thought there.
You just keep coming back. I don't know if it's like Galilee necessarily, but like being, you know, baptized when I was 23 and literally receiving the Holy Spirit, feeling this warmth coming down through me. Every year on Baptism Sunday, I go back to that. I mean, and it's very powerful for me. To kind of think about that every single year.
my oldest son especially. They adopted a child who is multicultural. And on his baptism, they always light a candle and they talk to him about what happened on that Sunday. And he's now in kindergarten. So it's happened, you know, they do it regularly.
See?
I think, okay, I want, any other people want to share? Kind of, where have you continued to grow? Maybe that's what that Galilee is. Where have you continued to grow in your faith?
I think just being present to those around you. You know. Seeing them and hearing them and. I don't know, just your sphere of influence. As you go through life changes, but. I think back to early family, like grandparents and. Most of them didn't travel very far, but they were really present to their neighbors and their family and everybody, and made a big impact, really, in kindness.
My mother was very, very quiet. I have written about her. I compare her to Anna in the Old Testament, where Anna too was kind of a quiet kind of person. But she has influenced me so much. So I think that's where it started for my love of Jesus and knowing that I was loved by Jesus was through her. But I've also had some mentors along the way who have been really very, very influential in my life. And they have all passed now. And I continue to look for some mentors. Because I long for that. I really long for that. Doug Anderson, Dr. Doug Anderson was very influential in my life. There were a number of them though.
Do you feel that, any of that is replaced by being a mentor to others? You learn from them too, or?
Yeah. Wayne and I meet together periodically. And now Michael Rivers has joined us. And I think that has become a part of my learning time. There's just no question about it for me. So it's both a sharing time and a learning time.
I think what's been interesting, going back to the moving thing for us, is that we've been parts of many parts of the big church in different places. And there's always people that you are there for a time and then you move on and they move on. But I feel like we've been fortunate to have a spiritual landing place pretty much everywhere we've been, for positives and negatives on, of all of them, they've played a role. And but it's the people we've picked up, right? And so every place we've been, there's people that you take with you,
Yeah.
even though you're in different places. And you're fortunate if you find people who also keep moving, not physically moving necessarily, but spiritually moving. And even if you're not in the exact same place, it's a person you come back to and have conversations with. I mean, we have friends that we visit probably once a year. And when we get back to, it's like we haven't even been away from each other. And we aren't in each other's lives other than just kind of being in touch on Facebook and knowing what's going on in general. But we can have a 3-day weekend together, and it's just it's a place of home and a place of resting, but also a place of challenge. And I'm just so thankful for those people along the way. And there's been them at all those stages, It's so, I don't know if for me, Galilee is a place. I think it's
No,
people.
yeah, I think it is for me too.
Yeah.
It's the people that I know.
I've been thinking now for the last year, this is because I'm old, but I wanna go see some people. And that will be a journey. Yeah, that will be a journey, and that will be interesting. Because they're in California and in Idaho, Spokane. I just thought, I can make a trip out of that.
Not on your motors.
Yeah, maybe on the motorcycle. Anyway, but I mean, yeah. And there's something about the journey and touching base and all that you said, that I think it's just kind of this Galilee thing that he's talking about here. The reconnection. It's not reliving, it's just, it's a kind of maintenance, spiritual maintenance you need to do, it seems like.
He's not going on the motorcycle because I want to go with him.
Okay. Not gonna ride in the sidecar.
And I only have one helmet, so.
Well, I think there's a point, like, and maybe age-wise for us, we're hitting that, but just whenever we move new places in my head, I have this, when you meet a new friend, right? You're like, there's that point where you're like, okay, I think they like hanging out with me just as much as I like hanging out with them, right? There's that moment where it's like, okay, this isn't just we're hanging out as an occasion thing, but like, I think this is a relationship, right? And I feel like we have a number of those where it's not just me partaking of something or attaching myself to something, but it's just as meaningful for them that I am there as it is for me that they are there, which is really cool.
And I think there is something in the physical movement to these points of reference, if you will. I mean, think about that. If you were a disciple and Jesus had told you, meet me back in Galilee after the resurrection, so they were in Jerusalem, right? That's probably 20 miles a day. It's gonna take you 3 days to get up to Capernaum or wherever we're doing Galilee. I mean, think about what's going through their head is they plan on meeting Jesus in 3 days in Galilee. So I mean, when you take that trip and you go see that friend, it's with that same sorts of building sort of anticipation
Mhm.
and curiosity
Mhm.
and sense of what will happen, expectation, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I think it's those kinds of dynamics that make this so spiritually potentially rich, I think. Well, it's just kind of interesting. Sort of into journeys apparently right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, imagine Peter just saying, wow, where Jesus first said, follow me. That would put a dent in your brain someday.
Yeah.
Well, it did put a dent in your brain.
So in some of the questions here, the second one, has your faith ever felt stagnant? As if you had stopped growing or moving? Have you ever felt stagnant in your faith?
Don't think of my faith. I was trying to think this morning, I was going through these questions, and I'm like, I don't think in my faith. I think in other parts of my life, I've maybe felt stagnant sometimes, but not in my faith. Because, when other parts of my life have felt stagnant, then I'm more likely to explore more in my faith that helps me grow. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I worked on a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. And I think during that period of time, it was a 2-year program.
Mhm.
I think I felt stagnant in that faith. Because I was focusing on learning,
Mhm.
growing in different ways. So I think there was a stagnant time there. Yeah. But I didn't stay there either. So.
Any kind of analogy to the wilderness, the wandering in the wilderness.
Mhm. Can you explain that a little more?
Oh, just that I think spiritually people sometimes feel that way. Like there's a period of time where they're just walking in circles and don't really know where the exit point is.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't think it's always bad. I think
No.
sometimes it teaches us something, and I think God is in that with us. Um,
Yeah, I don't think God ever leaves us. Maybe we tend to leave him a little, but in that stagnant time, in the quieter times, the wildernesses. Number 4 there. Where is a place like Galilee in your own life? One that you feel compelled to return to? Where is the place where you first encountered Jesus? Where were you first moved by the power of his love, by the gift of his grace, by the joy of his friendship? I think maybe we've already kind of answered that in some ways.
It would be hard to revisit because I was in a car with a friend going to work on the freeway in San Diego.
Where And what happened there?
Well, just we were talking. Yeah, I think I've said this before. I think that's when I first just finally dawned on me that God was for me. I didn't have anything to prove. It's already proven. Exposed.
The question's really triggering for me. I don't know, I've stepped away from that concept and just looked at, even before I was aware, God was there too, and working before I knew. And it was part of my whole life from the beginning, and so it doesn't depend on any response in one moment in time.
Mhm.
And I'm glad other people get something out of that, but for me, that's a very like triggering question.
I do remember being asked by a spiritual director, what's a significant thing that comes to mind when you think about encountering God? And the silliest things come to my mind. I mean, it really, I was laying on a log over a creek that was on the property I lived on. It was moss colored log. And I remember laying there, just looking up through the trees, and a mouse came up the log next to me, and it was like I was part of creation. I was just part of that. And I was overwhelmed at this feeling of being in the presence of God. I mean, it was like, that's just the most bizarre thought I'd ever had, kind of like that. No, but I've been in church all my life. You'd think I'd remember one sermon, you know? But that's the first thing that came to my mind. It's almost like little insignificant things have had the most impact. With seamlessness.
I remember when I was 7 and we had first moved to California, back to California. And my dad had put up one of those metal swing sets and whatever. And this little girl was over. She was more like kind of between me and my brother. She was probably 5. And she was a neighbor down the street. And she was swinging in our backyard and looking up at the sky. And she just kept saying, I can see God, I can see God. And I've never forgotten that. I mean, that was just really, at that time, I was like, she can? Wow. But like, it's just precious, you know?
Looking at the slides after church today, one of them was Bryce Canyon. And I remember I went to Bryce Canyon one time, and I had just got another rejection to a medical school. I wanted to be pre-med. And I didn't know what direction God wanted to take me. You know, now I became a nurse. But at that time, it's like, so I took this trip all by myself. I'm staring out at Bryce Canyon and saying, God, I know you wanted me to be a doctor. What the heck is going on? And I looked at this beautiful Bryce Canyon, and it's like, I made this. Look at how beautiful this is. You think I don't care about you when I can make this little thing, you know, this beautiful, you know, it says, I've got you. And I remember seeing those pictures again. I stared at Bryce Canyon and I was in despair. And I was thinking, God doesn't care about my future. And obviously, I knew what was right, and He doesn't. What's going on? You know, and then, you know, it's like, look at what I've made. I've made Bryce Canyon. Stop it. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. I who can make this can help you, you know. And so I remember returning from that trip going, okay, what is it then? You know, change directions, you know.
Kind of a joke.
Yeah, you know, it's just like I felt like, you know, God didn't care, obviously. You know, and He's like, Cam, just stop. Look at this. Open your eyes and look at what I made. And I was like, oh, this is really pretty. I was like, you know.
You know, one of the things that's just kind of hit me recently is the stories of the Bible is the constant presence of God. I mean, it shows in so many different ways, but at every point in history, I mean, we're just sort of surrounded by God somehow, you know, through all kinds of means. But you think Adam and Eve, perfect garden, presence of God, co-partnership. I mean, that's pretty intense, really. not so intense maybe in the Old Testament, but there was always the prophets and the commandments and the reminders and the coming back to the prompts. And you look at even the way Jesus sort of surrounds his disciples, teaching, modeling, you know, present, you know, and then how Jesus leaves, but we have the Holy Spirit, and you know, that's kind of the wind that is. And our problem isn't, it's kind of like there's a whole reality out there and this sort of thin space that sometimes gets thick and we feel vague and distant, and then sometimes it gets just thin enough and there's some peepholes you can sort of see through. And not just see the little teeny light that affects you, but you kind of see both directions, and you see the whole kind of scope of, you know, the presence of God. I mean, creation itself is sort of, we're bathed in the presence of God just by, you know, all that sustained us even in this life. So, you know, it's just sort of waking up. Maybe that's kind of what happens. Waking up, I don't know. It's all very strange.
Okay, I think we've started early, so we'll stop at this point. Unless somebody else has something to
We're gonna
say.
ask about Sunday school this summer.
Yeah,
Are
oh,
you gonna do that after,
pardon?
are you gonna do that after we pray?
No, we need to talk about what's next, you mean?
Yeah, well,
We,
yeah,
in our meeting, we said we would ask the group whether or not.
they're interested, yeah, so this summer, typically we don't have a traditional Sunday school. Last summer, we had Sunday school every other Sunday. And so we met up here with every other Sunday, we went through different things. What do we want to do? You know, Matt's won't be here, and do we want to continue a Sunday school lesson in some ways? I know Amber Black was talking about maybe doing a study at her home on a different night during the summer of different books. But this is the group that comes every Sunday. What are you thinking you want to do?
Wasn't there a book that was proposed for,
Appreciate these things, I think.
yeah, or something
Mhm.
that we didn't get, but,
Yeah, so that's, you know,
but I mean, yeah. Do we want to continue meeting periodically during the summer or not?
once a month, twice a month. We've already decided every Sunday is not probably what we want to do. How was the attendance last summer? It always was on the Sunday I worked, so I couldn't come to any of them. But was there like 4 or 5 people that couldn't listen?
Usually. Well, I mean, it wasn't as many as.
Yeah, and it went up and down, but yeah, it was, I think the
People that
idea
come and
was
go.
that people could come to any, you didn't have to necessarily be at every single one. And that was the idea, but there were people every time.
And we're going to have some activities in the fellowship hall too.
Yeah, you can't have it on.
It will be
19th of October.
sporadic, it's
Yeah.
not going to be every Sunday.
Yeah,
Yes, there's a plan for between services on the 19th of July.
Oh,
There is a plan, yes.
So what do you all
19th of
think?
July.
What about you guys? Are you gonna even be here in the summer?
I mean, we travel a lot, but the other thing I was thinking about as you guys were discussing the other day is who's gonna teach it, cause if Stan's already got his hands full with all the preaching stuff and Matt's not here. And Paul and I are gonna start in the fall with a big thing, so that kind of feels like what we can do. So the question is, are we running out of people to teach as well?
last summer it was more like leading rather than teaching, you know, we had a book and we did we saw the little
There's a
video.
video,
Yeah, we had a discussion, so it wasn't. I mean, any of us could do it. Kind of, I mean, you know, it wasn't a lot of preparation, as I remember.
And like my comment to Amber was actually we'll be here during the week more in the summer than on the weekends because we're here for work and then we might have like a weekend trip planned or something like that. So for me to go to something in the middle of the week actually is easier in the summer probably than
Mhm.
the weekend piece.
Yeah, she was thinking like a Thursday night or something like that, or some other time instead of Sunday. People gonna miss having a Sunday thing. Because actually, the next, after we finish the Galatians study, I think we're gonna be finishing that like May 17th. And then we don't start again until September 20th is when we're gonna have another study, like the Maximus study. So that's a big gap, you know, June, July, and August. And half of September.
But, I mean, maybe people just should think about it, because, I mean, if there's stuff happening in Fellowship Hall sometimes. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not gonna be here.
I'd be okay with Sundays or an evening during the week. I would like to have something, maybe, but yeah, I could probably do either one. I just know I didn't do last summer though, because I couldn't, but yeah.
Okay, well, I guess that gives us something to talk about for next time we have our meeting. Like I said, I'm not very helpful about what happened last time because you guys chose to do it every other Sunday on the Sunday I was working. It's like, well, you know, you're choosing the Sunday I'm working every time. I won't come to any of them, you know, I was like, oh, well, sorry. So, okay.
Okay,
What about trying a nighttime Zoom, although Zoom has been pretty unstable coming from this location. But, you know, kind of backing up what Sarah said, that people are here during the week.
Yeah, I don't know if Amber was talking about doing it as a Zoom or at her house or.
I mean, at our house,
At her house.
the book, it would be a book study, yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
but. You know, we could do a small group or something too, on a book, or, you know,
Yeah.
more like a Sunday school book.
I find her very knowledgeable and very, I enjoy hearing what she has to say, so it would be good.
And I think the topic she was investigating is kind of in line with what the sabbatical is supposed to be,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
finding stillness
Mhm.
and
so maybe that's enough.
Is she willing to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, she is willing to do it.
Bingo.
That's what you
Sorry.
Okay, let's pray. Gracious God, thank you for conversations. Thank you for your presence with us. In your name, amen.
you wanna tell them how much to do for next time?
Oh,
Oh, yeah?
Just the first two little mini lessons that are in the.
Galatians.
Yeah,
Yeah,
The first two chapters?
first two chapters,
but
yes.
yeah, like, they're really short.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So we're gonna have two chapters each lesson.
yeah.